Well, greetings everyone. This is Jenny from the Spirit Root and the creator of the LIATI Institute of Self-Realization. Today, this video is about fine-tuning and coming into more understanding of what this teacher training is going to be about. So if you've already enrolled in the teacher training, great, good on you. And if you're just maybe thinking about joining it, then stay tuned and you'll get some details about what we do when we become a LIATI life coach. So the first thing we need to look at is, what does LIATI mean? LIATI stands for Love is All There Is. Right? So when we really enter into this understanding that love is all there is, we feel in our body that there is a presence within us, there is a point of contact of consciousness that has never been born and will never die and never changes. In this part we might call the LIATI center. This is a part of us that is connected to universal love and is divine. So what happens during our life is that we get disconnected from this center, and we would fall into something called shadow or trauma. When we get into trauma or shadow, we disconnect from this truer essence of ourself. We might call it the higher self, true purpose, true home, our spiritual home. And that can cause a great deal of suffering. So this training is all about peeling the layers of what's blocking this divine center of love and connection, of home, and starting to come back to it, starting to use it as a compass throughout our life. We don't want to be disconnected from our true vital nature. That is painful. All right. So the training is about helping others to do this work. Okay, to stop living in chronic fear and this busy mindfulness without intimacy with life, and come back into this participation with the divine within, with life, with people, with their purpose, with their path. And we work at this from many different layers of study. We work on it from a layer of study from a neurological perspective, from a biological perspective, from an energetic perspective, from a trauma-informed perspective. And we start to really get the whole person back into the driver's seat of their own life. All right. So this sounds interesting. Stay tuned. So in a metaphysical sense, what we do in LIATI is we help clear and recalibrate the energy body, which in turn regulates the nervous system. All right, so we use energy medicine, which we would call maybe Reiki energy, and that's the primary start point really for us. All right, we create this platform of consciousness that we can then collaborate and heal deeper places within the heart. We use neurobiology. We really get into brainwaves here and meditation and healing trauma, kind of starting to rewire the brain, starting to reset that amygdala response that can be so sensitive to everything we've ever experienced and become kind of a hindrance rather than a protection built into the body chemistry. We work with depth psychology and shadow work and mythology. So part of this system is taken from the 5 Pillars training, which is a prerequisite for this LIATI system. And in that program is a self-love work training, and we use many different styles of healing to get into ourselves and to really become conscious observers of our own stuff so that we can be guides for others. So the depth psychology portion is really fundamentally anchored in that 5 Pillars work, and you can read more about that in some other videos. But we take that material and we really fine-tune it in the LIATI system to help others. All right, breath work. We do a lot of breath work in this system with our clients, mainly 5 distinct types. So we mix and match coherence breathing, trauma release breathing, stress resilience breathing, which is super important, psychotropic, which is more expanded states of consciousness, and performance, which really helps us to really fine-tune our physical vessel, really. You know, the physical vessel is the container, and if the container is malfunctioning, then the higher order of things inside can't really work. So a lot of this training is about helping your clients really reduce stress and deal with stress in a healthy way. And performance breathing helps with that. All right, again, we do a lot of work with meditation and hypnosis to try to move through the different brain waves to get past those layers of consciousness, of ego, of personality, and drop into that subconscious belief system layer where the real juice is. Now, you can talk about something on the surface crust forever and nothing will change below the surface. So this study, this work is really about getting into those deeper layers and making real change inside the deeper crevices of the being so that real change can happen externally in the surface. And we work with shamanic principles. And shamanism, to me, and how I understand it, is two things. Number one, it is the expansion of consciousness. So people do this in many ways in shamanism, with plant medicine, with sweat lodge, with contemplation studies. Lots of different avenues up the mountain, we could say, to expand your consciousness to where we get to that mystical oneness point. All right? And when we're expanded like that, we have this direct experience with the divine. Mostly the divine within us, which is also the divine everywhere. We realize we are oneness. We are one unified field of consciousness. Okay? So within the shamanic principle training of this LIATI system, we work with reincarnation studies, specifically with looking at our life from a soul contract perspective and also soul purpose. So you can see here there's quite a lot of systems in place for your clients to dive in on whatever layer they're ready to. So there's no need to start them out with Reiki if they're not into energy healing. You can start them out with something very scientific like breathwork and very scientific like meditation. And we can mix and match any of these systems to help them come home to themselves. It's very nice work. And what do we actually end up doing is coaching them to do several things. We help them move from trauma to embodiment, from this victim mindset to having a deep responsibility for their day-to-day, moment-to-moment choices and actions, which is where empowerment really comes from. So from education to empowerment, education is the cornerstone of empowerment. When you have self-education about yourself, your patterns, your traumas, and how those show up in your life, you have the power to change them consciously, right? Instead of living in victimhood all the time. All right, we go from disconnection to homecoming. We say that when we have a shadow experience, we separate from ourselves. We have a soul splitting. So when we do this work, we have a soul mending and we come home to ourselves. Right, and when we come home, we can really access that compass within us that tells us what we're here to do on the earth plane this time around. Okay, we get functional purpose in our life. We say, what is my heart, my LIATI heart telling me to do? Where am I being drawn to go? Who am I being kind of edged to reach out to? Okay, what makes me the most joyful? That's usually our soul purpose. And there will be challenges there, but it does this, lights you up this little thing inside that makes you know that's the thing. Okay? So we move from heart, we move from mind to heart, from apathy to empathy, and we move from this very chronic survival mechanism of living, where we're worried about everything in the future all the time, to really being passionate in ourself and in maybe our career. Okay? So becoming a LIATI teacher is really a sacred act. It's really deciding for yourself that you're going to live from a higher dimensional space within yourself. You're no longer going to be ruled by chronic stress, chronic survival from the viewpoints of everyone outside yourself. You're going to listen in and live authentically. And that is the greatest gift we can ever give ourselves and others. So, let's get into the nuts and bolts of this work. What do we actually do?